And Fernando is with the NOAA Office of Water Prediction, and that's the office that's responsible for the Atlas 15 program, the Atlas program. So,
All right. Can you see my slides?
yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. All right. So thanks again for the introduction here. So yeah, I'm part of the Office of Water Prediction, which is an office within NOAA Weather Service, and part of my role is to oversee the generation of our precipitation frequency studies across Atlas 14 and 15. So I'm going to provide a brief update on kind of where things are at today with both of these projects, but certainly um, we'll circle back soon to provide a more kind of in-depth, detailed overview of where exactly we are at with the Atlas 15 estimates that we are getting ready to publicly release and share, at least to start a peer review process. So this would be preliminary information that would be available to the public, at least for the lower 48 states. And then after going through that review, adjudicating feedback, we would then seek to publish the full results later on in this year. So this will just be a quick overview of status. We'll follow that up soon when we release information to provide background on how everything was generated and the details, and then we'll go from there. Before going on Atlas 15, we are still active with an Atlas 14 project, and specifically the Volume 13 component of Atlas 14. And this covers the states of Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, North, South Carolina, and Washington, D.C. Um, so we are still very much actively pushing this forward. But prior to Volume 13, we did publish Volume 12 over the interior Northwest from Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. So for Volume 13, we did start the peer review process in August of last year and had that open for about 45 days or so, closed that at the end of September, and are now working on reviewing the feedback, adjudicating that, incorporating some additional data sets that we were made aware of, and kind of refining the methodologies and the results that we have thus far. So we are targeting publishing the Volume 13 information later this summer, so 2026 here, and very much looking forward and trying to push ahead as quickly as possible with this. Um, if you were following along with the peer review, you'll probably notice some differences compared to some of the information that was available as part of NOAA Atlas 14 Volume 2. Certainly, part of the reason for that is in the area around where Hurricane Helene impacted, as you can imagine, but also some of the differences that we saw were related to changes in data availability, methodology, refinements, and so it's been 20 years since Volume 2 was published, and I think Volume 2 was the first volume where we implemented some of the regionalization techniques and interpolation to account for elevation and terrain. So we've evolved quite a bit over the last 20 years, and so some of the other differences that were noticed were kind of with respect to, again, data availability and just the evolution of methodology, science, and technology. So yeah, looking forward to pushing this along. One more thing that we've been doing with Volume 13 is working to align the framework and the approach for this study area as much as possible with what we're doing with Atlas 15, so that when both studies are fully published, users will easily have a way to interchange, right, and use either the stationary Atlas 14 information or Atlas 15 Volume 1, or the projected estimates for Volume 2 in a really kind of seamless way. So that's one thing that we've been trying really hard to do, is just make it super easy to switch as appropriate for different use cases, and also just make sure that the same input data is kind of going into it as well, so that it's fully aligned. So look forward to that in the summer of this year. While we're doing those Atlas 14 studies, as we go through various different extreme weather and water events, for a select number of storms, whether they're really impactful or having widespread impact, we do also do precipitation analyses and kind of compare the rainfall totals against the Atlas 14 estimates to help quantify how rare some of these events that we're seeing are. So just be on the lookout for those. If you use your search engine and look for NWS AEP analysis, I think it's one of the first links there, and you'll see what we've done over the last few years for different select storm events to, again, help quantify some of these impacts that we're seeing with some of these events. We don't do every single storm. We have some thresholds that need to be exceeded to do that, but some of that information is available and out there. Okay, so transitioning to Atlas 15, obviously we've been working on this for the last few years here and are continuing on this path to deliver not only updated present day estimates as part of Atlas 15 Volume 1, and this would be kind of the seamless, continuous solution that's provided all at the same time so that we have a consistent baseline for the Volume 2 estimates, which would become available as well, which are kind of projecting those present day Volume 1 estimates into the future through the year 2100. But Volume 1 is critical to everything that we do with Volume 2 and really establishing that foundational, seamless, and consistent analysis for the country, not only for the contiguous U.S., but also in the areas outside of the contiguous U.S., covering Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Guam. So I think you guys will recall that we did start this whole effort with releasing a pilot for Atlas 15 over the state of Montana. And that was done in September of 2024. For this pilot, we kind of targeted storm durations that were and annual exceedance probabilities that were a subset of what we intend to provide when the full data set becomes published and publicly available. But we wanted to provide the pilot as kind of a first look and start getting some early feedback on how this information will differ from the Atlas 14 information that has been generated so that we can incorporate those refinements early on in the process as we continue working to publish the full Atlas 15 data sets. Along with, as part of that pilot, we published a technical report that has a lot of information in there about how the information was generated for that pilot area. It also has a lot of different comparisons comparing the pilot Atlas 15 information to Atlas 14 Volume 12, as well as also comparing how the information looks across, using stationary statistical frameworks versus non-stationary, and then also comparing how the Volume 1 data compares to the Volume 2 projections out into the future as a function of global temperature index, as well as the various different emission scenarios. So all that was made available for the pilot. We also created a visualization tool on the National Water Prediction Service website, which is at water.noaa.gov. And through a combination of maps, charts, and tables, we made accessible all of this information to quickly allow users to understand how things vary spatially, but also allow users to click on individual points of interest, see how the IDF's curves compare across the various different volumes in the scenarios or global temperature indices, and just trying to make it easy to do a compare and contrast with the information that was out there. We do intend to also make this information available through API data services when we fully publish the Atlas 15 information, so that those who want to integrate that information into third-party applications can seamlessly do that, or just download the whole data set for certain applications. So that was part of the feedback that we were seeking as part of the pilot that we initiated. We did receive a lot of information or feedback through email and through various different technical exchanges and webinars, whether to groups like this or technical exchanges with federal partners. We did also have a formal survey that was available during the pilot, asking various different questions and also kind of some free-form opportunities to provide response. Received a lot of positive feedback, validating that we were going in the right direction. Also, a lot of helpful feedback about how to make this information easily accessible to, maximize the utility of the Atlas 15 information upon full publication. So thank you very much for those of you who have provided already feedback, but also those that will provide additional feedback as soon as we release the preliminary information for the contiguous U.S. Very soon. Okay, so just looking at overall timeline here, last year, a lot of the focus was expanding beyond the pilot domain over to cover the contiguous US. We've got a lot of that information already generated, and so now kind of putting the finishing touches on that information and preparing to release that package to the public to initiate the peer review process. We intend to do that in early 2026 here, so that's coming soon. We'll follow up with more information and certainly would be happy to come back to brief this team on more of the technical details associated with the information that we've just released. Also this year, we're preparing to expand to OCONUS, and by the end of this year, we intend to also initiate the peer review process for the areas outside of CONUS, so that next year we can fully publish the OCONUS areas as well. So it's going to be a busy couple of years here and continuing to look for every opportunity to accelerate the process as much as possible. But certainly going through the peer review process, the public peer review process, collecting all that feedback, adjudicating it is an incredibly important part of our development. So, just quick sneak preview here. This is on the right-hand side, you'll see some of the sample volume 1 data that's been generated and expanded to the CONUS area. So this is using as input hourly data across 9,000 or so stations across the country. But for kind of daily durations and beyond, we've got about 23,000 precipitation stations available as part of the analysis. So all of that is being incorporated into the methods that are similar and in line with what was shared for the pilot, but expanded upon and refined as part of the CONUS dataset generation. So we'll also provide a technical report with the CONUS preliminary estimates to, again, explain how the information was generated, any refinements and changes that were made, what all the data inputs were, and also will, again, show comparisons between Atlas 14 and Atlas 15 Volume 1, as well as Atlas 15 Volume 1 to Volume 2. One thing to note as part of those comparisons, for Atlas 14, certainly we didn't have information for Washington and Oregon, so there's a little bit of a gap there. But also the Atlas 14 information was generated over the last 20 years or so using different data inputs, right? So it's a helpful comparison, right, to understand the differences, but needs to be taken with a grain of salt because Atlas 14 was generated over a 20-year period as opposed to all at once. So looking forward to providing all this information soon to initiate and support that peer review process. Similar for Volume 2, we've generated adjustment factors to project the Volume 1 estimates out into the future through the year 2100. So looking forward to sharing all of that information as well, not only what the adjustment factors look like and what the spatial trends look like, but also how that actually ends up generating the new estimates that support Volume 2. Part of the trick, of course, with Volume 2 is because we're spanning so many different durations from 5 minutes out to 60 days, and also annual exceedance probabilities of 50% down to 0.1%. There's a lot of different long-range weather model data sets to use and look at, and not any one data set has everything we need really to support the full analysis, right? So part of the innovation is bringing all these data sets together within a consistent framework so that we can provide all possible outcomes for how this would look like to support a wide range of applications. So it's using data from CMIP 6 and CMIP 5. It's looking at using deterministic data and ensemble data, dynamically downscaled, statistically downscaled, bringing all of that together, right, so that we can support the widest range of applications and user needs. So path forward here, early 26, we intend to release the preliminary information for CONUS. That'll kick off a peer review process, about 60 days in duration. And then by the end of 2026, we still intend to publish the final estimates for CONUS. And then again, we'll initiate the peer review process for OCONUS as well in 2026. So really looking forward to getting this information out there. We'll do that as soon as possible. Please follow the Atlas 15 informational page on water.noaa.gov. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to atlas15.info@noaa.gov with any questions or feedback. And so that's all I got for today. I'm sure everyone's eager to hear more details, but we will circle back soon with that information.
All right. Thank you so much, Fernando. I know you need to jump. Just two things I want to kind of mention. And then one, we're certainly interested in supporting the peer review, in any way that makes sense. So we'll be tracking that. And then the other part of it that we're going to be talking about later today and going forward is we're planning on highlighting some of these various NOAA products and other agency products as part of ASCE 2027. So, I guess I'd like to have a conversation at some point about how I'm sure Office of Water Prediction has a plan for training and engagement when these products are available. Um, should I direct that kind of communication to you, or is there somebody else that's putting that together, or have you thought that far along yet? Because I'd
Yeah,
love
feel
to
free to
get
reach.
this content in front of people
Yeah,
in Philadelphia
sure.
in 27.
Yeah, please reach out to me and Sandra Pavlovic. We can work with you to discuss some of that. More broadly, we're also working across some of the different NOAA offices to support engagement and training and things like that. So we're doing it in collaboration with those outside of OWP as well. But
All right.
yeah, please reach out to us and let's talk more.
Okay, and Jennifer, you got something
I do
before?
have a quick question, Fernando. When this is published, 15 and volume 2 in particular, are those static data sets or how often do they get updated? Because that means a lot to us as we start adopting these things into documents and standards.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've only received funding to support one update, both across Volume 1 and Volume 2. NOAA has been provided the authority to continue generating this information into the future, but that's subject to additional appropriation of funds. So we only have the funding to do this once, at least at this time.
Mhm. So when you update, is it published as a separate like number, edition, or something? I know the volumes are significant, but if we point to a data set and I point to volume 2, as you make an adjustment, let's say, do I know where that is? Do I understand? Can the public or the standard user say, okay, we're using volume 2, edition 4, or whatever it is?
Yeah, we could probably it probably would make sense to do some type of version control or addition
Yeah.
to try and simplify, right, as opposed to creating a new atlas or something. But
Okay.
that's probably something we can talk about more. But maybe addition of version may be the best way to do
Yeah.
that.
That would be critical for us. So yeah, I
Okay.
would love that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the feedback.
Excellent. All right, Fernando, we'll have you back for sure. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. More to
You
come
bet.
soon.
All right. Bye bye.